What is up, guys, and welcome to another video. The Knicks lose to the Boston Celtics 116-102. Didn't post about didn't talk about the game against the 76ers away. I was not there to watch it. I watched a little bit of the second half, and that's all I could watch. But that's why I couldn't give an actual analytical response to the game, or whatever you want to call it. I couldn't give an actual response to the game. But I was there the whole entire time watching the Celtics versus Knicks, and I'm here to talk about it. Now, my first kind of note of this game was you gotta win that offensive rebound battle. You have to, and I think the Knicks did well in doing that in the first half, and the Knicks started to lose the battle. For some reason, Peyton Pritchard um, came uncovered on the block to get some good offensive rebounds. I mean, shout out him hustling. He probably might be the smallest guy on the floor. Him and JB, Jalen Brunson. I can't say JB anymore because Jalen Brown's playing. So hey, we can't say JB. But he was the smallest guy on the floor. Just couldn't box him out, man. Just couldn't box him out. I think JJ Redick said on the broadcast that he's a kind of underrated rebounder. I don't really care. I mean, the guy's 6 foot. You can't if you're a top like whatever rebounding team in the league or top five rebounding team in the league, you have to be able to box out. And you can't let those small guards get rebounds. Yes, okay, talking about Peyton Pritchard, he might be the underrated rebounder, but you still gotta put a body on him. And that was just Tom Thibodeau's thing and just saying, let's just forgetting that he's that underrated rebounder. You need to put prep before the game. And just not putting a body on Peyton Pritchard was a problem because it just led to those offensive rebounds. Um, you I mean, the Knicks just have to be able to defend the stretchability of KP. That's what I said before the game, but they just couldn't. I mean, KP is just something else, man. I mean, he's ever since the ACL tear, I thought his career was over. He's been able to rejuvenate his career as best as possible. He's not been like the same player he was when he's a Knick, but he could damn well help a basketball team win a championship, and that's what he did that's what he's gonna do for the Boston Celtics if they make to the championship, which I have my bet. I mean, I don't bet, but I have my kind of, faith in them trying to make to the finals. I'll talk about that later. Later, kind of, we'll hit on that. But I my unbiased opinion. That's why I have them getting in the finals, and I think it's a big part of KP. Just the way he can stretch the floor, just the way he can also get paint touches, which the Celtics need. Um, I think it's fun to kind of think about the stuff that the Celtics can do now with a player like KP. I think it's just fun to think about that. I think the possibilities are endless now when you have somebody like a KP instead of a Robert Williams. Shout out Robert Williams. I mean, he's a great player. Has been out the whole entire season. Hopefully, he can get ready for the next season. Play good basketball for the Portland Trailblazers next season. Can't wait to see him healthy. But he, KP's just a different dynamic. He can stretch the floor. He can abuse mismatches in the paint. He's a way different offensive player, and he can play he can hold his ground defensively. And I mean, it definitely helps 7 for 3, but he's a very underrated defender. Um, you got to win the bench minutes, and the Knicks couldn't do that. And I think that it was a kind of like a mid versus mid bench. It was kind of awful, and the Celtics were able to stagger their minutes. Were able to stagger their minutes. Um, well, I think it also after like making that big announcement, they were able to stagger their minutes. After really saying that, it makes me think like I'm not really blaming Thibs on that because you have you have a lot of guys injured, not a lot of guys, but you have 3 guys injured that are very important. Julius and Mitch. So it's really hard to stagger those minutes, but I just think the Celtics did a great job in staggering those minutes, either having Brown with the bench or Tatum with the bench, where they were able to beat the Knicks whenever Jalen Brunson came off the floor because Jalen Brown was either on the floor when uh, Jalen Brunson was off or something like a Jason Tatum. I mean, the Celtics team just so good and coached so well by Missoula. But um, force them to take threes is my thing before the game, which definitely turned on my head because I didn't know that they were going to come in here and make every single 3-point shot they put up. I knew they were good from three. I understand that. But they were making everything. They were making some contested shots. Well, granted, the Knicks couldn't close out sometimes, but still, like they were making some threes. And the Jaylen Brown from the corner close out. Josh Hart's right in his area. He could just knock it down. I mean, I guess when you're hot, you're hot. Damn. Um, um, don't let them get inside. And I think that was one of my biggest things to this game is don't let them get inside you. If you're gonna get beat from three, you're just gonna get beat from three. But I think the underrated part of this game is they're able to beat the Knicks inside. And I think again, that's one of those things where you have it kind of like a 0 degree for different. Like you have kind of a zero margin for error. And even if you get beat in the paint just a little bit, I think Isaiah Hartenstein played a good game, but even if you get beaten the paint for a possession or two, you just have a zero margin of error. And if you have one turnover, it's just a zero margin for error. And then the next thing you take that to the playoffs, the next game in March against them, a game in March against them on the road, where you really cannot, where you really need to understand that you don't have a lot of margin for error against this team, if not at all. This team is and the Celtics are very good, and you cannot throw those turnovers. Maybe you have one or two, but you cannot be just throwing the ball away. I know that is the biggest part of losing, but I'm just pointing that out because you cannot turn the ball over and give the Celtics extra chances. You cannot have those possessions where Payne Pritchard gets inside your defensive rebounding crew and gets an offensive board. That's the stuff that mounts because of just players like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford and Derek White and Drew Holiday. Like those are the players that could really make you pay. And that's the thing about playing against a team like the Pistons or the Magic, which are the teams I'm staring at. So that's why I bring them up. But it's a very big difference because those are guys who could really like connect on kind of connect on your mistakes for lack of a better word. Um, really like uh make your mistakes bigger. Like you don't want to make up a big. You don't make you might think it's a little mistake, but they're gonna make it turn it into a bigger one, and because of just how good they are, and you make a little mistake against the Washington Wizards or the Houston Rockets or a team like the Pistons, you that doesn't really feel that big. But against a team like the Celtics or the Bucks or the Suns or a team like the Thunder, like those mistakes are gonna be exponentially bigger, even those little ones, because you're playing such a good team. That's just a zero margin for error. I really want to go on a tangent about that because the Knicks cannot be making those kind of silly plays anymore when you're playing a team like the Celtics or the Bucks. Um, don't let Tatum get in the post and fight for early position. Fight for position inside. You cannot just let him catch the ball. And that was my biggest things going to this game. I think that Josh Hart did a great job, and all the other players did a great job trying to get post position. It's just the personnel just wasn't there. And I think even though good fight by Hart, Jace Tatum's just gotta get the ball, and then it's just game over from there. Drew versus Jalen Brunson was a great matchup, and I do think Drew Holiday wears you down. Even though Jalen Brunson had 34 points and looked unstoppable, when it gets to the fourth quarter, you're like, oh, this man's really wearing me down. Like, it's really hard to get these shots up. Even if I'm making them, it's really hard. Now, my legs are heavy. It's good. I'm short now. Instead of like another game where you're getting guarded by like a Tyus Jones, where like you can get easily by him, and you are pretty fresh for the fourth quarter. Drew Holiday's making this stuff tough. Even if I'm making them, you're getting in the fourth quarter, and those legs start to get heavy as they always do. It's not just a thing that I'm hating on Jalen Brunson. No, I'm not at all. Not at all. It's just that it just happens for everybody. When you play against a player like Drew Holiday, OG Anunoby, um, a Lou Dort, a Herb Jones, those type of players, your legs start getting heavy. Even if you make those shots, it starts to wear on you, and just because their defense are all the way up on you, that's the stuff that those great defenders bring. Even if they're getting shots made on them, they just bring that kind of ability to just wear down the offensive player. Um, pressure started on Jaylen Brown, which it kind of shows his versatility. Even though he got picked apart this game, exposed, whatever you want to call it, because he was just left wide open. Um, I do think that versatility part really makes me smile. I do because you can have him guard Jaylen Brown, and even though he didn't do a pretty good job, but just having the trust to put him on kind of a guard is just really important because I think that he's a very underrated switchable defender, and I think that's big in the defense of the Knicks, where when healthy OG Anunoby's there, Julius Randle's there, Mitchell Rock, like you can have a very switchable good defense. Porzingis had dropped coverage, and I think the Celtics were content in letting Jalen Brunson go one on one. And I think that's personnel driven. Definitely, 100%. If I drew Holiday, why would I try to blitz a player? Why would I try to blitz a player and give up, rotation, let my team go in rotation, and then they point out on the broadcast, rotation lead to sometimes offensive rebounds where your player's out of position. And why would you want to give that up when you can trust somebody like a Drew Holiday who you bring in specifically to guard those players like Jalen Brunson, to guard those players like Damian Lillard, to guard those players like a Devin Booker. Like you bring in Drew Holiday to guard those type of players. So that's just why he's brought in. You just gotta let him work. You just gotta let him make those shots tough, and you just gotta live with that. And I think that's what Joe Mazzulla was really thinking. Um, Hart is too small for Jason Tatum. I think that really made me miss OG Anunoby a lot because Hart just was too small. He was way too small for Jason Tatum. As good as Hart fights defensively, he's more of a guard defender. He's not going to guard somebody like a Jason Tatum. That just adds his very good package skills. Is that he is a very big player and can post you up, can just like be bigger than you sometimes, and you can't really do anything about it. Um, Josh Hart did make those plays where he's on the floor, he's hustling, getting down, getting easy buckets at the end of the quarter, bringing the energy. I think he is the heartbeat of the team. No, probably a pun intended, but he is the heartbeat of this team, and I think that's one of those biggest parts. Even if when you're thinking of him, breaking those shots, the Knicks blitzing Jalen Brunson for Josh Hart to shoot threes and breaking them. Just remember that he's that guy. Like he's gonna be that guy for you late in games. He's gonna give you those sorts of plays. That's gonna give you 100%. Even though he may not make every single 3-point shot, he will give you that 100% effort. And I think that's something that Tom Thibodeau really relies on and knows he can rely on. And that's why you see him getting played, 40 plus minutes because he can rely on him, giving that 100% effort every single time he steps on the floor. And sometimes even players in other teams, you can't really rely on that. But for Josh Hart, you can. Um, I think even though the Celtics couldn't miss from three, I think the Knicks could have had a better, effort closing out sometimes. I think Tom Thibodeau did say that when we get interviewed, was that the Knicks really had problems kind of closing out. And I think he won't say that like, oh, the Celtics were just shooting the heck out of the ball and we just couldn't do anything about it. And I don't think that's what a coach would say on national television. But he was kind of right. I mean, the Knicks kind of had some problems, closing out. I mean, when you kind of blitz, and I'm gonna credit Dom Thibodeau, not credit him, discredit him on this. You know, when you blitz, and you want to blitz, you're gonna get put in rotation. When you get put in rotation, you're leaving players like Sam Hauser, you're leaving players like Derek White wide open, and that's what you don't want to happen. And I felt like Dibs was just letting that happen, which it kind of doesn't help when you're blitzing and then you're in rotation and Sam Hauser for three and it just goes in, you know. But the offense was too stale at some points where I was wondering why. Sometimes I was wondering what Tom Thibodeau was doing on the topic of Tom Thibodeau. I just was wondering what is he doing. Like the Knicks need offense. Obviously, everybody can see it. Every Knicks fan can see it. They need offense, but you counter that with bringing in Jericho Sims for offense. That needs to be brought up because you cannot have those mistakes going down the playoffs when that everybody knows that they need offense, but you bring in Jericho Sims or something like that. God bless Jericho. He's great. He's great in his role, but he's not going to bring you offense. I think that gets something like a Bojan. I think that begs to the question of will Thibs play anybody but a exceptional defender? Like, do you have to be this type of defender to play with Thibs? Because I know Bojan will have his breakdowns and everything, but I feel like he definitely could, make up for them with his offense. I think Evan Fournier really couldn't, but I think you put a Bojan who can make up for those type of defensive lapses. But yeah, it's just me going off in my notes about they're hitting everything. But they were, and I think that's something the Knicks could really talk about is that why were they hitting everything? I don't think you could just say, oh, they were hitting everything, but why? I think you need to get to the question why and what was kind of your like guarding on something like a Chase Tatum or Jaylen Brown that caused you to get in rotation, or was it just too much help on a Drew Holiday drive, or too much help on a Derek White pick and roll that caused a wide open three? Like what happened? Granted, they were making everything, but why? Because you need to get down to the basic question of why. Maybe it could be just OG. I know we would lock that stuff up, but spot up threes. I don't think that you. I mean, I think OG. I know he's more there for on the dribble. Suffocate a defender on the dribble, but helping off is not really something a player could just magically be good at. We're still gonna have those problems about helping off. You just need to get to the bottom of why. Why were they why do they hit so many shots? Maybe it's because they have good shot makers, but why? Were you helping off too much? Because you're running the teams that can just be elite shot makers. That have a bunch of elite shot makers, especially in the playoffs. You need to get to the bottom. But hey, if the Knicks want to battle with a team like the Celtics, they definitely need to get to the bottom of that. But I think the Knicks fought throughout the game, and I guess the Knicks can just hang their hat on just beating up on the Pistons. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Have a nice day, and let's go Knicks. Subscribe to our notifications and auto download function on Spotify. Peace. Have a nice